Hi, Ben.
Hey, Andrea, how you doing? Oh, can you hear me?
Hello?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can now. Sorry,
Oh,
I had
okay.
my headphones misconfigured.
No worries, no worries. So I saw your comments. Uh, the first comment, yeah, I can add a diagram. The second comment with chain and sequential, I think chain still works. I understand that normally the everyday normal use of chain makes it sound sequential, but actually chains is just any sort of connection. Um, so I think it still could potentially work. And I think it's
Yeah.
actually the best name, to be honest, for like I spent so long thinking about it. So what was your concern other than it? Because like I said, it doesn't mean sequential.
Yeah, no, that's fine. It was just like a um yeah, in my mind it evoked kind of sequential, but you're right, it's not necessarily the case. And anyways, I wasn't really proposing to change it
Ah, cool, cool,
now. I
cool.
was just that's fine. It was just like
Oh, like a thought.
yeah,
Yeah,
like a
that
thought,
makes
yeah.
sense. Okay, cool, cool, cool. Hey, Emil, how you doing?
Hello, guys. Hi, Sean, as well. Nice to see you.
No, no,
Hello.
I still have this silly background. Hi, welcome. Okay, sorry. Just getting rid of the waves in my background.
Oh, dang, is that your background, Sean?
That is my actual view.
Oh, where do you live?
Oh,
I'm in New York City.
Oh, okay. Yeah, NYC.
Yeah.
I was like, man, that's a really big city. So I was trying to figure out where it was. But yeah, it makes sense.
what about the flood out there? Still much of
Uh,
water or?
it didn't really impact me too much, but I stayed home and yeah, just avoided it.
Hmm.
All right. Welcome everyone. Should we get started? Let me just put the link in the chat to the notes, and so that everyone knows the meeting is recorded, and feel free to sign yourself in. So welcome to the CDEvents working group. Today is October the 3rd. I'm Andrea Frittoli. I work for IBM. I'm in UTC +1. Yeah. So first thing, usually new attendees. Sean, is this the first time you joining us? Would you like
Yes.
to introduce yourself to the
Uh,
team?
sure. Sean Brennan. I work at Bloomberg. I think Dan Hahn has been here before. We don't exactly work together, but we have a shared interest in CDEvents. Let's say I'm interested in using CDEvents basically in two regards. One is for just kind of end-to-end visibility, and also we're seeing if we can use it for in our SDLC pipeline for both approvals and I guess just kind of automating our pipeline.
Sounds like a perfect fit for us. Welcome.
Thanks. Welcome. Yeah. I hope I'm trying to take notes, but yeah, feel free to change if needed. All right, and welcome Dan as well, Daniel. Okay, so we had an item in the plan for today to discuss about ticket issue events with you, John. Is that something you'd like to do today? And if so, how do you have any proposal how to handle the conversation about it? Would you like to present something to discuss to start getting
I would
introduction
love
to
to
the topic?
yeah, I mean, I would love to discuss it. I don't really have a proposal. I don't really know where to start exactly.
Okay. Well, I think what I maybe we can start from. I think we have an issue here. So define event for ticket issues. So I see you have two use cases in mind: observability matrix and interoperability. You're saying,
Yeah. Yeah, so just kind of in general, we're working on just kind of visualizing our artifacts from, from basically from PR to deployment through the different environments. And then kind of a specific use case that we have is, we require a product approval on some of our applications before they can go to prod. So we wanted to see if we could, I mean, we currently capture those approvals in Jira. So we wanted to see if we could maybe use CDEvents to kind of capture those approvals and signal to our deployment system that it would be okay to release that beyond, into prod.
And this is actually something we've talked about at Apple, which was the one major thing that was missing from CI/CD or CDEvents in general, is ticketing. We have our internal ticketing system, and every time we talk about CDEvents, my manager brings up our ticketing system and how it can relate. I'm just like, man, we're getting there. Just wait. So yeah, I would love this feature. I'm gonna share this with my manager so he can finally rest easy. But yeah, I think this is definitely needed for CDEvents. I'm curious how the spec is going to work a little bit. So a couple issues that kind of like came back with CD or when we were talking about it with all the internal folks here at Apple is if a PR occurs, right, like how does that system, well, I guess this is more about the spec, but like how would it be able to to know what ticket it's referring to? Like if someone opens a PR, right, like how in GitHub there's no way of like specifying a ticket, right? So you would need some way of injecting that metadata. The question is just where, right? So those are some of the questions. I can add them into the issue for just some visibility, and then we can further discuss. But yeah, this is I think a good place to start, and then if we can start ironing out some of those questions on how to inject that metadata, that information, I think that would be very, very useful.
Yeah, at Bloomberg, we've kind of solved that issue by we always put the Jira issue number in the pull request title. It's a little hacky, but as long as we always follow that, it works. And then we can basically link the pull request to the Jira using that string.
Yeah. I mean, we do something pretty similar, but yeah, as you said, it's a little hacky. I don't know if that's like gonna be the go-to way. So I'm just wondering like if there's a better way that we could potentially figure out. But yeah, if that's the way, then I guess that's the way, right? And then it's up to GitHub to figure out on how to parse that, or the GitHub action, how to parse that and send that forward. And then of course, there's going to be PRs that don't have it. So the question is, if a PR doesn't have it, does it just mosey on through and just continue? Like what's the idea there? Do we, you know, do we just flag it as, or do we automatically create a ticket? Do we, or maybe that's an event. Maybe it's like a unticketed item, right? So there's a few questions there.
I can just fill in from our perspective in Ericsson, we do provide this kind of information as part of the commit header in the commit message. So we have a specialized syntax with straight brackets in each of the commit messages where we have a reference to Jira, for example. Now we don't use GitHub, so we don't have pull requests, we use Gerrit instead, but and it's same. So yeah, I would say a specific syntax in either the commit message or maybe in the pull request would be the thing, I think.
Sounds
And
good.
actually, what's
I think
good about that too is I just realized that we can have a GitHub Actions like a CD event that actually vets for that as well. So if you're expecting those formats, it can actually vet and say, hey, this doesn't follow the CD event format. So actually, that might be a good solution on that. And then of course we still probably need like an unticketed event, because you know some things are going to slip through. People are going to want to merge things. Like one example for us at least is we take commits directly. So I'm part of Spinnaker, the Spinnaker team here at Apple. We take commits from open source, and they might not necessarily follow that format, right? So we probably still need some way of either ignoring certain commits or having some sort of flag saying, hey, these commits are unticketed, right?
Yeah, I think from a CDEvents point of view, what we can do is to specify the data model. So saying that, I mean, we support having this connection, this relationship between tickets and issues. And then I think that the specific of how that information is collected from users in different change management system or ticketing system is probably then down to the maintainers of those systems. But for sure, we can, provide recommendations from CDEvents point of view of how that could be done. I don't think it's something we need to specify as part of the CDEvents project, if it makes sense.
Yeah, I totally agree. So we should focus on the protocol, I think, first, and then of course we should say that it's possible to make it practice as well, of course. But we should now first focus on the connections between the events and what the events themselves should look like. But we should of course see that it's possible to realize it in real systems as well. And I think that's perfectly makes sense for us now.
Maybe I just want to catch up a little bit. I should know this. Sean is in Bloomberg with me. Is the idea that there would be a sort of event similar to like a standalone event for like a ticket created, ticket closed, and then this would be in some events, like some CI events or something, you could say the associated ticket can refer to some other ID. Just trying to get it like a feel without getting too into the specifics.
Yeah, I would say that the source change events, so that the change events should refer to this ticket that solves them, either solves it fully or if it solves it partly or something like that.
Right.
But yeah, so I would say primarily to have a reference to the ticket itself, saying that the ticket was created or defined or something like that. Then whether we should follow the full life cycle of a ticket as well, I'm not really sure if we should have like ticket updated, ticket closed, all those things, but at least ticket defined or ticket created, yeah.
I think we definitely want ticket resolved or ticket closed. And the reason for this, right, is if you just have the create ticket, and let's say you deploy, right, but then you had to roll back because of a bug. If you're just looking at CDEvents, you're not going to know the state at which you're in for the deployment and the tickets, right? you could just assume that everything was solved, right? But like you don't know. So I think we need to know whether or not something was made its way through to a deployment and whether or not that deployment was successful. I think that's kind of the bare minimum. Otherwise, you would have to get all the tickets from the system, trace and then track all the
You're breaking up, and I'm not sure what happens to your sound. You're breaking up.
and make sure that those sorry yeah, so what I was saying is it might be good to have, am I still breaking up?
No, that's fine now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's better.
Okay, cool. I was saying so a good I think it might be good to at least track the from when it was created to at least when it was resolved. Maybe updated is less of an issue, but knowing when something was resolved is really important. And the reason for that, like what I was trying to say before I was breaking up, is that if you only have the create event, tracking that through CDEvents becomes very difficult without looking at a lot of different things. And what I mean by that is you would have to look at all the ticketing, all the commit, all the source change events. You would then need to look at all deployment events. You would need to see which deployment events contained which commits, and then whether or not that deployment was rolled back or not. So it becomes very difficult to kind of track what ticket made it into deployment. So that's kind of a concern. I'm not saying that we have to do it this way, but that's an immediate call out. Like when I hear that we're only tracking created, is that it might be hard to know what what made it through.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with what Ben is saying, but I also think updates would be useful in certain scenarios. And I think, providing the option to send those update events would be useful. And for me specifically, like I'm interested in like the transition events, so like knowing when the ticket is transitioned to a certain state indicates that it was, approved, perhaps.
And this is great for management as well, like knowing like this less for engineers, but like management, like this is a huge win for them, being able to see how many tickets are being resolved, how many tickets are in in review, how many tickets have been updated in the last month. So this is, I think, a really important metric just for management, just for higher ups. And the reason why I say this is because my immediate manager, he has kind of an idea of like what I'm working on, what things I affect. But as you start to go like one level higher and then the next level higher, their context of knowing like what Spinnaker is and what these tickets mean become less and less, right? So all they care about is how many tickets are getting resolved, what tickets are bugs, what tickets have been updated, right? So I think the metrics there could be very valuable, not from an engineering point of view, but at least from, well, not to say it's not an engineering, but I think it's very it'd be a huge win for management.
Nice. One question I have on this, because I think we discussed the topic of tickets has come up in a few times now in different contexts. One is, for instance, we had some discussion with the value stream management interoperability team and Steve from that team, and their interest in having like ticket type of events is to track basically from definition of features, then into code changes and so forth for production, and then into the value that is brought in front of users. So then tracking the entire span from features to the end. But I think like what you're saying, Sean, for instance, that tickets for you would be interesting from a tracking of approvals point of view, and I think Ben is probably also what type of tickets that you're talking about to track, for instance, the deployment into production with which might depend on an approval and so forth. So my question is, are we going to define like a generic type of ticket, or do we want to have some more specific type of tickets with like specific data model as well? So do we want to describe tickets, use tickets for different kind of things, like so for feature descriptions, for approvals and so forth, or do we need maybe specialized type of tickets that represent specific type of processes, like approval tickets, deployment tickets, feature tickets, and so forth? I don't know. Any thoughts about this?
I think you could probably.
I think we should start simple and have a generic ticket first, and then if we see the need to specify tickets for certain use cases, we could eventually add that either as properties in the event or as new events. But I think starting small makes it easier to evaluate the use cases.
And then before we transition or segue into the next kind of topic here, I did want to ask Emil what his concern was regarding sending like the updated tickets and whatnot. I'm just trying to understand because
I wanted to comment on that. So yeah, I think we need to be cautious to not get on a slippery slope onto, trying to mimic the full state of some external system into CDEvents and thinking that we can show the status of any connected system to CDEvents as CDEvents data. One example could be that, well, should we really mimic the full Git DAG, for example, in CDEvents? Should we have branch created and all those things? And should we then have the CDEvents as the source of truth for that information, or should we rather go to this external system, Git in this case, to request the current status? The same would be true for a ticketing system. Should we have all transitions of a Jira system notified through CDEvents, or should we then instead go out to the Jira system or the ticketing system and ask what is the current state of this ticket? So also this metrics on how many tickets have we resolved the last week or so. I guess that's a perfect question to ask Jira itself and not ask CDEvents, I think, what tickets have been resolved. But with that said, I think we could have CDEvents saying that now in this phase of the pipeline, we have now verified that this issue that was delivered last day by these developers, it has now been verified, so that we can have an issue or ticket verified event as part of the pipeline. That's perfectly fine. That might not be something that is sent from the ticketing system itself, but from somewhere else in the pipeline, maybe, but still referring to the ticket. But I'm not, ticket closed. Well, sure, we could have that. I think anyway, it's most important to have a definition of the ticket or a reference to the ticketing system. And then obviously, if there is a need to observe what was the state of this specific ticket when this happened in the pipeline, then of course we should probably mimic that information into the CDEvent, saying that, well, when this test was performed, the state of the ticket was this, or something like that. Does it make sense?
Yeah, I think so. I think I might be envisioning this use case also a little bit differently. So maybe I'm talking based off my assumptions on how we use our ticketing system. So our ticketing system is automated. So when we create a PR that creates that, we have, like I said, in the commit as well as in the pull request, a kind of it's technically a link that goes back to our ticketing system, updates it, and then we'll post the comments and all that. And then when things transition from like being merged or being like cherry picked or whatnot, that gets all updated and updates that ticket. And then when it gets deployed, it also that ticket gets updated all automatically, right? So it would be nice, because right now what we need to do is we need to like look at all these different systems. We need to look at GitHub. We need to look at our CI system. We need to look at a Spinnaker, right? But if this all talked the same language, it would make that very easy. So that's kind of where my brain was at.
Yeah. That's always the well, the give and take in this discussions, I would say. I mean, we've been talking about events in many years so far in Ericsson, and I mean, often, yeah, it's good to have a generic language to describe the actions that are taken in the CI/CD system. But then for each detail, the lower details you add to those events, the more technology non-agnostic it will be in some sense. I mean, then you will add information that is somewhat specific to your system. And that makes it anyway harder to make it a generic visualization or observability tool, right?
Okay, so that is one point that you said that is kind of like a counter to this, is that it makes it less of a generic system. But I would say not really though. If that's the primary concern, is that it makes it less generic, I don't think so. As long as it really comes down to the proposal, so it's really hard to say, but I can envision this proposal being very generic, where we don't have to worry. And like what Sean was saying earlier too, people can even opt into this feature, right? Or like turn it on. So I think what we can do is we can be specific on some things where you need that specification, and it's up to them what features they want to turn on. Maybe we have like default, that's, these are the default features that are turned on for CDEvents, right? But then for things that are more specific, you could just turn them off or turn them on as you see fit. That's always an option as well, is giving the ability to people to be able to do these things. And then if it doesn't make sense for their use case, they can just turn it off. Do you think that might be a good approach?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what you mean with turn on, turn off, but I mean, having optional parameters or optional events, obviously, yes, we could have that. Yeah, of course, sure.
Yeah, I just want to add to that, if I may, give my perspective. Being new to CDEvents, I feel like it doesn't hurt to define the event, and then that just provides more flexibility to users to either, like Ben was saying, either implement that event or not. Like they don't need to send, ticket updated events to CDEvents, but just having that spec there and available to use, I think, increases flexibility, and it's just a benefit. I don't see the downside, I guess.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. One thing to remember, I think, is that a consumer of CDEvents might not be within your team or your organization even. So I mean, the more we put into the CDEvent spec, the more complex it might be for the consumers of these events. They need to be aware of a lot of different details, because, or they can just, of course, neglect the information that comes there if they don't understand it. But if they should be adhering to a certain version of the specification, they should also then understand all events that are in there. But sure, as long as the events make sense and they are not specific to any tools like that, I don't mind having them in the spec, as long as we can be aligned on what they should look like and those things. But that should be fine as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So
and
sure.
I think that's the most important thing that what Emil just said there, is that we need to make it as generic as possible. And I think if we go down that route, like, yeah, it would just be a win for CDEvents all around.
Okay, so I think we generally agree that we want to have generic generic kind of data model for tickets that could be applied to different systems. We want to have a relatively comprehensive list of events for the different type of events that may happen on tickets, open, close, updates, transition, and so forth. Yeah, I guess my concern on the events being generic, was how do we connect them to the rest of the data model in CDEvents? But I guess that's something we can do incrementally. So I also agree we should start with generic, and then we can increase specificity or complexity as we go.
Yeah, I think one of
yeah,
the things like Emil had said is like not putting the whole data model in. Like I'm worried we have a ticket created event and we have, you know, the URL and the description, and then the next day they want, you know, all the things that Jira has, like, or whatever ticketing system has, and there's 100 fields, or that, or there's just almost an unlimited amount of fields. And if we sort of have a perspective before we start to say like, this will be the bare minimum to get you, like the status, the link to it, I don't know what is, and we sort of say philosophically, we're only adding things for X workflow to like say you can get back to the ticket, or so you can do accounting of it. But I think that it would be very easy for that to slip, and all of a sudden we're adding like, you know, the 34th optional field, and it's like it just can slip. So I think that I kind of agree with everyone had said, and just like as we look at these PRs to think like, do we really need that field in? Status seems totally reasonable. Like some URL sounds reasonable, and I'm not sure, like ticket owner, ticket, you know, like it just really spirals out really fast. So that would be my, I think that Emil had said it, I just wanted like +1 on that same idea.
Yeah, I think that's the notion of every event so far in CDEvents, right? Like we don't want to include everything. That's been pretty true for all the events. And I think we can also say in the proposal that this is to just track the state of the ticket rather than the state being, you know, opened, closed, and resolved, or bug fixed, and the type. And I think that should probably give the use case of what it's trying to solve, and kind of see where we land. We could start with that and then always expand. But I think just it doing that is more than enough, for at least for us here at Apple. And I think we'd be happy just to have that, to be honest.
Okay, so my impression from the room is that everyone is pretty much in favor of moving forward with this. We seem to have a reasonable level of agreement on kind of where we start from. So I guess my next question is, is anyone interested in kind of drafting this out, you know, getting leadership on this topic and preparing some initial draft or data model that we can then review and continue collaborating on together?
I don't mind working on it. I'm doing the links proposal already, but that's if Sean doesn't want to work on it. So Sean, since you opened this issue and you've already you know, thought about this one, because like I said, we've talked about it internally at Apple. So I'm kind of, you know, so whatever you are comfortable doing, if you want to start the proposal, that's fine. I can always review, add my use cases, and we can go from there. But if you don't want to do that, I can always take it up as well, because this is something we are really interested. Well, my manager's really interested in at Apple.
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly happy to help work on it. If you want to collaborate on it, I would love that. If you want to even, you know, help get it started, or if there's some example of how you guys, you know, normally go about kicking something off like this, I can certainly help out.
All right, yeah, we can do like.
I don't know if you stopped talking, Ben, but sounds like the sound just cut off for you. We're not hearing you right now.
I think my VPN decided to crap out.
Oh,
Yeah, I was saying, let's make it like a joint effort, and we can kind of go from there. And and I can kind of get it
Yeah.
started, and then I can send it your way, Sean, and then we can kind of like go back and forth on it if that works for you.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, and I think we have a few examples of like events that we added to the spec in the past. So if you look into the PRs, closed PR, so we had like a PR where we added like the incident events. That was a new bucket of events. Then we had a PR where we added the testing events. So testing events proposal. So I think those could be like a couple of examples. Let me just copy the link.
Yeah, and this proposal is going to be way simpler than links. So I think it'll be nice to like do something that's a little bit easier. So I definitely I'm more than happy to start this as well, because yeah, the links one has been very, very complex the more and more I think about it. But I think we're at a good place now. I think we're at kind of like the reason why I've also volunteered with this with Sean is that I feel like we're getting close to the end of the linking or connecting events. So I think it might be good to start on the next item, the next thing on the agenda.
Awesome. Excited.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks a lot. So looking forward to this. Yeah. I think yeah, let's get this started, and then I mean we can continue the conversation. We can use of course the working groups to discuss on this, and they're like big topic of this discussions. I think we can use the working groups, but there's nothing preventing us from continuing the work asynchronously as well. So of course we can use GitHub to have discussions there on the PRs and so forth. So yeah, cool. Any more topic comments on this area of tickets that we'd like to discuss today?
No, I think this covers it. We actually, yeah, kind of talked about a lot actually. So yeah, I think
cool.
I think it looks good.
All right, so just one logistic topic that I wanted to bring up very briefly. Hopefully it's just 2 minutes. So it's about the meeting schedule. So we were chatting, I think, with Emil also about this. So right now we have two. So we have weekly meetings, but at alternate times. And so one is kind of more like Asia, EU friendly, and the other one is more Europe, US friendly. So that we have like weekly meeting. The attendance on the Europe/Asia has been pretty low recently, so we were wondering whether to keep that or just have it only if there is an agenda. And then for the EU kind of EU America one, do we want to keep it then bi-weekly? Do we think that people think it would be good, it would be better to have a weekly meeting?
I was actually going to suggest this about a couple weeks ago, but I didn't know if you guys were thinking about the same thing, because I was like, oh, you guys seem slammed as well, because I completely understand. But I was thinking that we should probably move to a weekly meeting, at least this group. We always have people in here, but a lot of our conversations are also very deep. And it's like, great, we talk about all these things, but then when the next week comes, we might lose a lot of that context. Like I find, sometimes I'm like, oh, what did we talk about? And then like, oh, I addressed all these things, but it's like the person that's reviewing it, or that might be a part of the meeting, or someone that's coming in might not have the full picture or context from the last meeting. So I think having weekly will keep that context. And then it will help facilitate new ideas, because like we have a lot of these ideas, so help facilitate some of these discussions a lot easier because they're happening more frequent, right? So if we have, for example, if we have a week meeting next week, right? We already went through this whole spiel with the ticketing, and the next week we can talk about, oh, what did we do about that, rather than like 2 weeks from now where there might be a little bit loss of context, right? So I definitely think having it be weekly would be very, very beneficial. But that, I know for you guys in the EU, are you guys okay with it? Because I know this is towards the end of your day. So I mean, that's like more on you guys, because like I said, like this is still early in the morning for me. My day is just getting started. So it's like not too big of a deal, but I know that having a weekly meeting always at the end of the day might kind of suck, to be honest.
Yeah, this time slot is now between 5 and 6 in the afternoon for me. So this is I would say the latest time slot I would be happy to take on. And I guess there is an historical reason as well, which is still valid, I'm afraid. So every other Tuesday there is the CDF TOC meeting, which collides with this time slot every other week. So I think we could maybe not have this time slot every week. So then we would need some other time slots the other week, I would say. And just a comment there about the EU friendly, or rather Asia Pacific friendly time slot we have a meeting on Mondays at is it 10 a.m. UTC, which is to cope for people from Australia to be able to call in. So we have some people from down under calling in sometimes, but not too often, unfortunately. So I'm not sure if we should keep that slot as well for them. Maybe as an optional slot to be able for them to discuss with us sometime, but then maybe focus on meetings that are more for Americas and Europe, time slot like the one we have today now.
Yeah, maybe we could keep it as an optional, or maybe make it like a monthly optional meeting. If there is anything, then we can hold it. I mean, the idea of moving to weekly for this time frame, maybe it could be different days. As you said, Emil, there is a TOC meeting happening in the every other week. That would work for me, and hopefully would help us like keeping the pace with the changes.
Yeah, so if I could recommend some days, so usually Tuesdays, usually Wednesdays and Thursdays, sometimes Tuesdays too. So Mondays and Fridays are my lightest meeting days. So if we can do either Monday or Friday, or if we had to choose one in between, probably Tuesday would be the next option that would work best for me. So I think that would probably be fine. The reason why, because like I said, this is early in the morning for me, and these are typically when my meetings start. And to give you guys example, today, I have meetings all the way up till 4 p.m. and then same for tomorrow and Thursday. So if we could, Monday or keep it still Tuesday is fine as well. Monday or Friday works probably best for me. I don't know if that's true for the rest of you, but maybe we can even do like a Slack poll, like a vote or something, to say, hey, what days are you guys available at these time slots, right?
To me, Monday is great, I would say. Friday is obviously not very good at 5 p.m. my time, Friday afternoons, exactly. But Mondays is very good. Now we have the CDEvents meeting every other Monday as well, but we could have this meeting every other Monday, so to say. That's perfectly fine with me. So maybe every second Monday, every second Tuesday, something like that.
Yeah, that might work. So rather than like a reoccurring weekly meeting, we would have two meetings that are the same meeting, just on 2 different days, basically. Was that what you're thinking, Emil?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, I can prepare a proposal for this and see if it works for most people. It sounds like at least it could work for me, Emil, and Ben. And yeah, I can put it in the Slack. We also have like a mailing list. I don't know if you folks are on the mailing list. I can also send the proposal there. Okay. So it sounds like every other Monday and every other Tuesday, something like that. Okay. Cool. All right. The next item is more just like we discussed in some previous meeting about the hotel proposal. If for those who are not were not involved, so the hotel, so Open Telemetry team, they have a proposal about tracking, well, improving observability of pipelines through Open Telemetry. And so we started discussing what a collaboration between OpenTelemetry and CDEvents on that could look like, right? And there is a proposal on the OTEP side, and I would, say everyone who is interested in this, please have a look at the proposal, and if you have comments, feel free to comment on the issue or also bring them here. And we have one person on the other side who joined one of our meetings, and we may try to set up like a dedicated set of meetings or dedicated forum to discuss this proposal. So please let
and
us
I
know
also
if
had
you're interested.
Also had an action item last meeting to share the payloads, but apparently I got shot down by legal saying I can't do that. So I tried to share because it's actual payloads from our system. So I was trying to, like, even me changing it, they're like, no, you need to completely use different systems if you want to do this. We don't want to risk leaking something. So yeah, that was unfortunate, but yeah, sorry, I should have mentioned it in Slack, but yeah.
So that would have been Open Telemetry or Open Tracing examples.
No. This was just how CDEvents would basically work in our systems. And like basically what I did is I took payloads of our system, like how each API of every system is called, and then I transferred those to CDEvents to show the relationship. But legal was not happy with the payloads being present there. So which I felt like was a really important piece of the information to give people context. But yeah.
Okay, well, that's unfortunate, but also understandable, I guess. And so but thanks for trying, Ben.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Okay. I guess the other big topic we had for the agenda today was to continue the discussion on the linking events.
Yeah. If you can, I don't know if it's easier if I share my screen or if you click the link and I just talk through it. What do you prefer, Andrea?
I don't mind either way.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, let me share my screen real quick and just go to that link. I'll move this window and then go here. Because there are some important parts that I want to talk about here. So let me share my window. Zoom always has like a billion windows. Okay. I think it's this one. Or is it this one? I don't even know. All right. Yeah, it's this one. Okay. Share this. wait, which one is it sharing this window? Do you see my cursor? Do you see? What do you
No,
guys see?
we see a black screen.
Oh,
At
you guys
least
see
I see a black screen.
Oh, you guys see a black. Oh, what? Okay, hold on. Let me just share my whole desktop then. Share. You guys see something now?
Yeah, we saw your calendar though.
All
Okay.
right, cool.
Okay.
All right. So how do I remove you guys from? Okay, cool. All right, GitHub, let's load you up. All right, so the biggest thing here is, so here's this gigantic sequence diagram with, 34 arrows. Oh, I got to rename that to 35. The big thing here, was that?
Would you mind increasing the font a little
Oh,
bit?
sorry. Yes. That's the wrong way.
Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, no worries. So this kind of talks about like the payloads for each of these items, and like what the CD events would look like. But the big thing that I wanted to talk about is this, which I think was missing. So before, Emil had made a comment that I wasn't quite understanding until I started making these payloads. So CDEvents is imperative by nature, right? Or is it declarative? I always forget. It's imperative.
Declarative,
right?
rather.
Declarative.
It declares stuff. It doesn't tell you what to do.
It doesn't tell people what to do. Okay, so it's declarative by. So it's declarative, and what I was making the links proposal, I realized I was coming from it from an imperative point of view. So after working through that, I figured I needed to add these two. Adding these two and changing how these two being start and the end nodes, but also changing when the links get created. So this says, okay, we have this changed merged event. This creates a start chain. So this is the only time we send like an imperative. Well, not really imperative. We just send an event to before consuming an event. This is the first time we actually send an event to start the chain. But if you look at every other event, so this is connecting 1 to 5. So 1 to 5, right? So if you notice before, this 6 was actually where 2 was. So it was trying to connect them without knowing, we can't because we don't know what's consuming this, right? So now it's flipping that on its head and saying, when something is consuming of an event, we then connect it to its parent. So, and that's why we need the start chain. And the reason why we need the start and end is because if nothing is consuming this event, we don't know what has started, right? So if it's a single node, for example, that's why we need the start. We probably don't need end, but I figured, we should probably have end to just let people know that we're cutting the chain off and nothing is being persistent or nothing is continuing forward. But that's definitely up for debate there. But that's the biggest change, is moving this to be more declarative, or reacting to declarative events as opposed to foreseeing what the event is, which I believe was Emil's major concern. So when we go here, so when we look, right, let me actually go back here. So we say, okay, we have the send change merge event, and then we have the send pipeline queued event, right? And this is coming from the CI system, this Git system, CD system. So we have the CI system creating this send or this pipeline queued event. And after that, we are creating this link, which is connecting 1 to 5. So that if we look at all of these are now 5 to 8. So here's 5, here's 8, and so on and so forth. And then we go through some of the payloads. I don't list all 34 of the payloads. I just list the beginning, the end, and some of the middle points, just to kind of show how they're all connected. But if you see here, this talks about what the start event looks like, and then it just has this ID field. Then it talks about what each thing is doing, and then it talks about number 4, which is this event is being consumed, and then what these individual events would be. So I believe that's the last bit that is missed. That was the missing picture in all of this. But but I think this solidifies the links proposal. Of course, you know, there's probably a little bit of like minor comments, but I think this should clear up the what is it called, the confusion, at least, of how to use it. Or so I think. Does that at least address your concerns, Emil?
Yeah, I think it does. So now
Okay.
I'm not as confused anymore about how they relate to each other.
Yes,
So that
yes.
confusion I guess is gone by that. I should have left actually by now, but I need to stay. I understand to say some comments. No, but so I'm still a bit concerned, or maybe not concerned, but to me, I don't really see why still we need separate events for to declare relations. Why not? Why couldn't we really include the relations in the events themselves?
I
So
don't
for
want.
example, number 5 there, couldn't we just say that
Yeah.
this number 5 relates to number 1 as part of the event itself? At
Yeah.
least, yeah, I don't really see why we need separate event for it. honestly.
Yeah. I mean, we could, but like I said, you know, this allows for systems to connect events to CDEvents a little bit easier as well. Like they don't need to fully support CDEvents to connect CDEvents. So that's
No, I mean the links will be optional, or the relations will be optional, of course, in the events themselves.
Oh
as well.
I understand that, but
So-
but what I'm saying though is if a system doesn't support CDEvents, they can still pull in the SDK to at least you know, like make links to say, hey, we did get this PR. It does contain some metadata of like where this thing needs to connect and connect itself, right? So it's able to do that. So that's one of the minor wins. Another benefit too is this also allows for like having some sort of like collector as well for like links, which could still be true for CDEvents. So you could have like all these links going to like some sort of agent collector that does a bulk send, right? Rather than a single send. So the benefit of that is you can have just one request that sends, you know, a billion, or, you know, like, you know, 4 or 5 or 10 or 100 of the linking events at a time rather than one by one. So that's another benefit. If we did that with events, that would, you know, obviously, because events actually mean something, that would actually be a little bit more problematic. And then another benefit as well is that the links, depending on what they look like, the links might get a little crazy for the CDEvent itself. Like if there's, you know, like 100 events or 100 links for a certain thing, right? We don't want an event to be that large, right? If people are not interested in the links, they should be able to query for that link if they so choose. But if you have systems, you know, where it's like 100 tests or 100 artifacts or so on and so forth, that makes the CDEvent very, very large, and I don't think that is good. So yeah, that's kind of like from a performance and scalability standpoint of, especially of large systems like here, like I said, here at Apple. Like I gave you that one statistic. We had, for this one deployment, we had 500 artifacts, and these are 500 artifacts, like literally separate services, all coming to one deployment to then be spread out throughout Kubernetes. So these would all be linked together, right?
Yeah. So you say that you would not like to have it in the deployed event and point into all those artifacts, but you would like to have one separate event with all those links, all those 500 links instead, or a links event. Or
yeah. Well, it wouldn't be 500. It would be one link for each artifact, basically. Or
so
you know,
500 events.
Yeah, but it'd be 500 events, and that's why it would go to, the idea would be to a collector, because this is the same issue that tracing runs into. Tracing, you know, they're like our system, Spinnaker, for instance, sends millions of traces every like minute. It's a lot. So that doesn't scale well. So what do? You send it to this intermediary system, which is called the collector, which collects all these traces and then sends a bulk request as a single request to the tracing system, which then, you know, consumes it and and then does what it needs to do with it. So it scales a lot easier with that.
Okay. Yeah, I think I need to
Yeah.
consider that. I see time is out and I need to run as well. So yeah, I need to look into this PR a bit. And I think I asked last time then to add some pros and cons of including it in the event itself or not. I'm not sure if you did or if I just remember wrong that I asked for it.
You did ask. I didn't include it mostly because I think it's maybe this is
Doesn't make
because
sense.
I come
Since I still ask, maybe it makes sense.
yeah, well, to me it's clear because
yeah.
I come from a tracing background, right?
And maybe it is for everyone else as well. So please tell me, the rest of you.
No. But I will add it. If because I thought if I explained it and it's still not clear to you right now, Emil, then I did not do a good job and it's not obvious. and that means I need to put it in the spec. So that was my attempt. So okay, so I'll put it in the spec, list the pros and cons, and explain why.
Thanks.
And then kind of go for it. I'll do that immediately after this meeting and update.
Yeah, I got a drop too. I would say the same thing. It seems like naively having a parent ID, and then in each event it just says I'm from that guy, and just it seems like in the event seemed like my first intuition. So if you describe it, I think it would help me too.
Yeah. Well, Emil's saying something a little bit different than what you're saying.
Okay.
Yeah. He's saying like all these so it would be like the actual links themselves, right? So it'd be like it would be the parent ID for like a merge. I guess it would be a fan out, fan in, so it'd be like 500 links. Yeah, actually it would be parent ID, so it'd be plural. No, it would be the same thing. So yeah. So that's it's the issue is just it would get potentially very, very large, especially here at Apple, like where we fan out and fan in a lot of the times. So yeah, since it's not clear now, it's even more evident that I need to put this in the spec because it's not clear to either one of you. So I need to I'll go ahead and I'll write it. And hopefully that irons out some of the confusion there. And then, before you drop, Dan, do you have any experience with tracing?
I mean, we have distributed trace in our events and sort of just using it for,
like, do you know like how what the protocol is and like how it collects everything? I'm just trying to understand where I need to explain it from.
I think even the way you were saying it, just writing it down is like, here's an example workflow where it would be beneficial to have these separate events. I think that would be good enough for me versus too technical. I feel like, I think just like working through a typical work case that you have and that you see it, you would imagine this would be a lot nicer for people if it were that way versus another way. So,
Okay, cool. Yeah, that works for me then. Oh, I also have to drop. So
all right, guys. See you later.
But yeah, thanks for the meeting, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Yep.
Bye.
All right, bye.